Facebook. We'll see. We will see if that's possible. Let's see. We're just getting in here. Can you see it on your YouTube? Let's see. It says I'm live.
Yeah, it says I'm live too. I don't see it anywhere, but it says I'm live.
It says you're live. So let's see if there's a place in here to share. So today we are learning and navigating.
The new systems. Ooh.
You're going to go for it. I wonder. See if you can share it to your Facebook. You see a share? Maybe up here. No. Because it's, let me see if it's on the YouTube again. Oops, I don't want to do that. Oh, I lost you. Part of the play today. Let's see if I can get this done. I don't want to go there. We are learning and navigating our journey today. Here it is. Okay, so we are going to share. Okay, let's see if Keegan's back. She is here. Okay.
I hit the wrong button. I was trying to share it and I left the group.
She has left the building. So okay. I think I shared it. So we're going to get started. If you're joining us or just coming back to watch it later, go about 2 minutes in and you'll find out where we started today. So I want to welcome you all back to Sacred Wellness. This is Midlife Rediscovered, and this is my monthly conversation with my beautiful friend and soul sister, Keegan. This is where we drop the script, we lean into intuition, and we speak from lived experience. Today, we are just going to go with the flow, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that means and what that means for alignment. We're going to talk about identity shifts. We're going to talk about how in midlife your intuition strengthens and how the feminine is rising differently now. Today, thank you so much for joining me, Keegan.
Thank you so much for having me. And I love that you said the divine feminine is rising because I feel her.
Yes, you feel her. And it's funny, we were talking a little bit before we started, but what that actually means is that flow. There's no more pushing. I mean, the day I woke up, the 17th, I woke up and I was like, there was a breath of fresh air, because for me, the last 9 years, and probably longer with other planets that were in my chart, but the last 9 years have been extremely difficult, even though I've had periods of happiness and growth and change, but the last 9 years have been living hell. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Where are you at today?
I agree. I feel like there's this huge shift that has happened. And it's finally like all of the no's and boundaries I've been setting all like came in, and it's like embodied and being implemented. And I agree with you. The past 9 years, I don't want to call it hell, but it's definitely been a growing experience. It's definitely been pushing me and making me decide. And looking back at the past 9 years, I am really grateful for all of the hard times, because I really would not have put in the work. I just wouldn't have put in the work if I wasn't pushed to such extremities, like for real.
Yeah.
But I do. I feel good in this shift. I feel like new. I feel born again, not to be cliche, but I really do. I feel this childlike nature coming back. I feel my imagination exploding, and I feel the intentional shift of rest and the intentional shift of creation and just being present and seeing where that goes.
Yeah, and it is such a beautiful space to be in. If you think about it, and we talked about this before on the show, but we both grew up very masculine identity roles. And a lot of that is that sort of push and go forward and continue on no matter what, even if you're tired, even if you're sick, you're always pushing through and moving to that other side, stepping on people to get there while you're doing it.
I think I said to you yesterday, it kind of feels like shifting from that having to control it so that you understand the outcome or that you can predict the outcome to kind of like that feeling of when you were pregnant and you like knew inevitably you're going to have this baby, right? Mm-hmm. But you're so excited for the unknown. Like you don't know what they're going to look like. You don't know how they're going to behave. You don't know how they're going to act. You don't know how you're going to be as a mother, but you just know that it's coming, but you don't know the outcome, and that like pure joy and excitement and love for it. I feel like that is what it feels like almost.
Yeah.
The fear of having to like control the outcome of it.
Yes, because how often do you get stuck in that space where we're constantly thinking about the future and we want to be somewhere other than where we are today? And I think when you step into that now, knowing that you are divinely guided and protected always, and no matter what happens, that doesn't mean that there aren't going to be bumps in the road, right? It means no matter what happens, I'm ready for it. No matter what comes my way, I can step into that space knowing fully that it is for the best of me.
Yes. That the knowledge has like integrated into wisdom, and it's like one day at a time. And if I'm just constantly making the decisions towards alignment, then 10 years from now, it's just going to look better. 5 years from now, it's just going to look better. 12 years from now, it's just going to look better. It's impossible not to. And it's really powerful.
Yeah. I got this pulling a card before we started here, and I was shoveling a little more. I wanted to see if another one came out too, but willing release.
Ha. Perfect.
Let's see what else they have to say. We got willing release, right? That's what we've been talking about. Let's see where we're going to go to next on this journey. Again, chills.
What is it?
Endless possibilities.
Endless possibilities. Perfect.
Wow. And that's not to say, because as we're shifting and changing, our relationships have to shift and change. What we tolerated before can no longer be tolerated now. And I think when you know better, you do better. It sounds kind of cliche, but when you know better, you do better. And the space that we've become into is such a beautiful opening. When I look at, when my guides give me a sort of analogy to look at, it's the lotus flower and how they've gone through this dirt and how they come out this beautiful flower in the end, but it took work to get there. So
and usually white, untouched by the mud. Incredible.
Yes. I always wonder how that was.
I know. Ironically, when I had Olivia, I was living in Korea at the time, and the base of the hill where we lived, there was this huge lotus pond at this temple.
Oh, how beautiful.
And I was bewildered by that every single year when they all started to surface. I'm like, how does it come out of this nastiness? And it's such a pure, beautiful white.
Yeah. And so it can feel like sort of a death sometimes. I think as I've gone through my shift, and especially through the dark night of the soul, it almost feels as if there was a death that had happened, and now I'm going through this rebirth. This somehow felt very different to me. This felt like all of a sudden that morning came, and it was like a breath of fresh air. I could feel it within every sense of who I was. Did it feel like that for you too?
It did. Do you think it's because this death was intentional? It was welcomed. It was walked into knowing exactly, instead of being drugged, kicking and screaming.
Well, when I describe the horse now and the fire horse energy that we're in, it is like that case where you can be dragged through it. If you haven't done what you've needed to do, you're going to be dragged through it. Or if you've done what you needed to do, you're going to go through it seamlessly and ride that horse off into the sunset. So, thank you. Another beautiful analogy.
Yes. Very true. Very true. And some of us even have a saddle.
Can you believe that?
Not riding bareback.
Right? It's like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
it's so.
like you said,
I think,
waking up in the morning, it's like this settling of like integrated wisdom. It's not just knowledge. It's not just what ifs. It's integrated wisdom. It's like what I've been through, everything that has come up to this point is wisdom. I can call on it at any point. I can bring it up at any point. I can navigate at any point. There's no need for the fear. There's no need for the anxiety. I feel like I've truly created a safe space for myself.
mm-hmm. And yeah, so we can talk about wisdom, and we can also talk about power, because with that wisdom, I have felt immense power that I've not felt before. Well, I felt it before, but I sort of had a fear around it because I do know in past lives where it has gotten me.
Yes.
And in this life, it feels very different. And now it feels very different. So we talk about wisdom, power, and alignment, right? Those are three big words that people often push around. And you talked a little bit about wisdom. Let's talk a little bit about power, because power, I think, could bring the connotation that sort of pushing into that role of front and center.
Yeah.
And that's not where it is right now. The power is actually so much from within me that it can't help but reverberate out to my outer world. But it allows me. Have you ever seen somebody walk by and they just walk by with this confidence and like they own the world, even if they don't own the world, but like they just feel it. And I think that's part of what we're talking about today, is that power that exists within us.
Yeah, it's a reserved power instead of a boisterous one. You know what I mean? It's definitely one that is felt and not just, thrown up on.
Mm-hmm. And I go back to the Bible, right? You were created in a beautiful space, right? In the eyes of God, and you were created for purpose. So we look at that too, and we say, if I believed that my whole life, I would be so much different than I was. If I was born.
Mm-hmm. And with creation, there's so much power around it because the Creator created us with the intention that we are creators as well. And to understand that and really embody that and then really live your life by that is a reserved power. It's not loud, it's not forceful, it's kind, it's gentle, mm-hmm. It's flowing, and it just is, because everything is creation.
It truly is. Whether you're creating negatively or positively, you are creating. I want to ask anybody out there that's listening today, are you in this with us? Are you in a place where you have stepped into this power, this knowing, this alignment, trust, faith, all of these words that we're putting out here today? These words carry intention behind them, and we're feeling them now so much more so. Or are you somebody that's really going through a little bit more of having a harder time to release what it was, those parts of ourselves maybe that we're being asked to release, but you're having a little bit harder time with that? And I think when we come into midlife, especially, we start to ask, why is that?
Yeah.
Why was I so afraid to do that?
Yeah. And what was the purpose of it? What was the purpose of being afraid?
Yeah, it reminds me when we were in Pennsylvania traveling on the road, and we were doing an obstacle course and zip lining, and I was tethered in, but I was deathly afraid. Every time I took a step, it was like, I'm going to fall, I'm going to fall, I'm going to fall.
You're more than me. Was that Sophia's idea?
Yeah, it really was hard to sort of talk to the mind and be like, all right, you're tethered in. Come on now. You can do this, So it sort of reminds me of that. I think often we're scared to release those things that we've known for so long. They become an identity.
Yeah, I was just going to say it becomes an attachment or an assignment versus an alignment. That's been coming up a lot lately. It's like it's almost been assigned to you. Did you really choose it? Did you really welcome it? Was it, fears that were just like bestowed upon you, or did you choose these things? And I think that, is part of the stripping away, but that's really scary, especially like you said, it's a death. It's not only a death of yourself, but it's a death of relationships, and it's a death of how your life currently is and the choices you make and the cycles you're in. And I've said it before, everyone is afraid of death. It's such a taboo topic, but without death, there's no creation. It's literally the mirror. It is the reason you appreciate it so much is because of the walk of death and because of what death takes.
It does. And when you're releasing those old identities, and I think, not only is it sometimes difficult for yourself, but the people around you, like you mentioned, they are used to you being a certain way.
Yeah.
And now you're not that way.
Power. And like you said, it's power because the power comes from within. So in order to like step into something fully, you have to be the fire starter. You have to be the pathfinder or the way shower. And, the first one, or the one that does stand, is always seen as powerful. You might not know that that's what you're intimidated by, but it is. It's the power to choose for yourself, and it's the power to follow your will and trust it. And I really feel compassion for people that are still living in the narrative that they cannot choose, and that they're being governed by something or someone or something, and that they don't have the will to choose at any moment to change it.
Yeah, you get stuck in that narrative of, going to work, going to school. I was told I need to do this in order to achieve this, or I was told I need to go at this route because this route doesn't make any money, and we're told constantly by people probably that most of the times haven't done it. That's the kicker. Most of the times it's by people, and not that it's necessarily, them just trying to control you. A lot of times it is about that control. Sometimes it is out of love, but they don't know how to embrace that love in the way of support rather than, telling you exactly what to do. But when you look at that and you say, well, you didn't even do this, and you're telling me now that I should go and do it, or I shouldn't go and do it, and you didn't even try. You didn't even put yourself out there.
And there's so much shame in it. It's so much shame in it too. So then when you mix shame with the fear, it's just debilitating. People freeze in it. But sometimes, you reach all these goals in life and you set all these goals for yourself. And when you get to the top, you're freaking still empty. And you're looking around and you're like, I got the job. I made the money. I have the car. I made the family. I have the Amazon deliveries coming in. I have the crazy cable bill. I have everything society tells me I'm supposed to have to be happy. Why aren't I happy? And then you see somebody with so much less than you floating around like a damn butterfly. That's scary. To have to choose now to strip yourself away to really find what makes you happy and what really is fulfilling. But so many people reach all these monuments, reach all these goals, what they think is supposed to make them happy, and they're not. They're miserable.
Yeah, that's so true. I just saw my friend posted a video the other day about Matthew McConaughey, and he was talking exactly about that. How he's attained all of these things, but there are moments when he forgets what truly is important. And it's about going back within yourself and finding out what it is, in a daily presence that makes you happy.
Yeah. And not being afraid to go backwards. So many people think that that's a failure or a flaw, but sometimes you have to walk backwards to realize you went down the wrong trail, or that you dropped your phone, or that, you missed something.
Yeah.
But we're told forward.
Keep pushing through. You don't want to feel it. Push it down.
Sit down and move through it.
Oh my God. It is so funny because, looking back, I think this is where people sometimes get stuck too. We look back and we sort of have regrets. I don't necessarily have many regrets. I have a few, but I don't have many regrets. But looking back, they have more of regret. And I look at it more as like a valuable lesson that I learned. And so that going forward, I was able to make changes that I would not fall back into those old patterns, beliefs, thoughts that in the first place created those things that I was going through,
Exactly.
And I think when you can do that and you can look back, you're looking at a different type of perspective of it, right? A bigger perspective of the bigger picture of why that occurred. Because we can all sit in pity, we can all sit in shame, we can all sit in doubt and fear. But does it get you anywhere?
No, no, it doesn't.
It doesn't get you anywhere. When you look at it from the bigger perspective of, yeah, that was really hard. I really went through, like the death of my son, one of the most hardest things I've ever been through in my life, and I've been through a lot. The death of my son has taken me, 6 years to get to a place where it's like, okay, what has been the blessing that's come from that? And
Yeah.
for me, the process of grief was much more about learning who I was as a person, what I valued, where I gave my power away. And
Yeah.
so the process of grief really had nothing to do with the actual loss of my son. It had to do more with about me and what I accepted. But they're so intertwined.
And the gift of life, Terry. It gave you the
Yes.
gift of life to really, I think, embody the fact that, yeah, we can believe that we've had past lives. I know I've had past lives, but this moment in this meat suit and who I am is fleeting. It can end at any moment. And what legacy do I want to leave? What path do I want to follow? Death gives us the gift of life. And growing old is not, an everyday thing for people. It's a privilege that not many get. And I think Anthony really taught us that. He did leave behind so much because you went on this journey to help others and heal others and figure out what life really means for you. I'm going to get emotional. And so it's the gift of life, and that's why we can't fear death, because how do you appreciate life without respecting and honoring death?
Yeah. And realizing what you went through to get there, right? Often we don't want to go back and look at what it was that took us through that. But I think when you do that, you sort of bypass everything that you were in those moments and everything that you are now. And how can you live from a more authentic lens? How can you live from more of a love-based frequency? Even if you've been through hell, right? We've got to talk about how I've been through hell, but I can still live from a love-based frequency because I don't allow those things to pull me into making other people's lives or myself a living hell.
Exactly. And the idea that navigating from a heart space and creating life from a heart space doesn't just mean rainbows and butterflies. It really is cutting the flesh from bone, and it really is looking at the hard truths of things and choosing. And sometimes we don't choose what our brain tells us. We have to choose what our heart tells us. And sometimes it's to break our hearts, to crack us more open to a deeper love that's coming in, or a deeper understanding that's coming in that would not happen without the heartbreak. It just wouldn't.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about what that means in midlife, because midlife brings a whole nother sort of ambiance to all that, what it is. We let go of people pleasing. We outgrow the roles that we once had. We claim our own sovereignty in a space that we allow ourselves to do that, and we embody. So when we talk about alignment, a lot of times it's the embodiment of what alignment means, right? We've talked about who we are, who we were, who we are, and who we're meant to be. And now we're moving into this alignment, this embodied space. And what does that actually mean for you, yourself? Because it's going to be something different for me than it is for you, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so much mirroring too, I think, happens in midlife. You really start to see like your reflection in things and how things are reflected back to you, and things go and let things get swept under the rug until you're left with the pile to clean up. And that reflectiveness is a huge part of the embodiment, because it's taking responsibility and it's taking charge, and accountability for not just yourself, but the actions of others. And not all the time are the actions of others great, but if we take accountability for it, what we shoulda, coulda, did, woulda, then we can move forward in a different space. We can cut things out and be okay with cutting it out instead of having guilt, instead of having remorse, instead of looking back and having regrets, because you walked it, you saw it, and you chose it. And that is completely different than just being, bounced all around, moving forward down a stream. It's a lot different when you row your boat.
When you row that boat, we're going to row through those pains and emotions. I think, too, because we're in a space that we've remembered so much. I mean, there's so much that goes into, if you look at like a person's life and you look at what they believe, what they grew up believing, thinking, knowing, right? And then you look at the outer influences of that, of who was creating you, who was sort of molding you into that space. Yeah. A lot of times that's not who you even were. Like I always identified as the strong one. People are like, you're so strong. You've been through so much. I don't know that I could have done it, and losing a child was the ultimate. And how did you do that? How did you go through it? But I'm like, I was molded into this belief that I was strong. It doesn't mean that I was necessarily strong, but I believe that's what the way I was supposed to be. And when I learned that now that's not the way, I'm supposed to be soft. I'm allowed to be weak. I'm allowed to cry. I'm allowed to quit for God's sakes, right? I quit. I put up my flags many times. My white little flag. I'm done.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And there's so many layers to that, because every person is going through a different experience, and some people are raised, very religious, and then they're being cracked out of the mold in other ways and realizing, hold on a second, I believe this because life has taught me this, not a book. Or, you're raised in this idea of keep it in the family, and you grow up and you realize one day that these people that you called family, they're strangers that treat you better and strangers that love you better. And you can choose a better family because that family didn't keep you safe. You've never felt safe. And now you're creating this safe space and you're like, oh crap, this was part of the molding. This was part of the sculpting. That family aided in this moment now to make you realize you were the safe place and you orchestrate that safeness, and that people can be shitty, and that, but there's also really beautiful people and you can choose.
I love that. Say that again. You can choose. You can really choose.
You can. And I don't remember who said it, but it was something along the lines of like, deciding and not deciding. Even not deciding is a choice. So if you are always choosing, then how can you go against yourself? It's when you don't choose. Then you leave it up to chance, but it's still a choice.
And you don't trust. I think when you grow up in certain rigid environments, you don't trust yourself enough to be able to make those decisions. That's a good point, because if you don't trust yourself, if you don't trust what you're being guided or intuitively drawn towards, and people are telling you, oh, that's crazy, you can't do that. Like I was told we were crazy. We couldn't go on the road with a child. And what kind of life would that be for her? And I was like, this is the best life that she learned so much being on the road in a year than she's learned in school, exactly. And I'm like, if I had listened to what those people were saying, I would have never met you. I would have never experienced a beautiful, outcome that came from such a tragedy, right?
Yeah. I agree. Being a homeschool parent, I was up against a lot, and a military spouse and all of that. And keeping Olivia home and enforcing morals and an understanding of herself and guiding an intuition and creating trust within herself these past 10 years before she went to school has been the most rewarding thing. And it's been 100% validation of everything that I have chosen up to this point, including, the people that I've cut out because they're unsafe, the people that, will just I hate the cliche, but agree to disagree instead of really uphold morals and believe that what you believe will be respected and upheld, and what I believe will be respected and upheld, because we have a mission here to not only aid humanity, but to figure out the best version of ourselves. And we don't own our children. We don't own our spouses. We're all supposed to be just guiding each other in the best heartfelt way. And we are just suppressed with this competition and suppressed with these differences and suppressed with the fears of everyone else. Like, imagine if there was just no fear and you could just try and experiment, like, this is another thing that gets to me. And I'm probably going to go off the tangent.
Girl.
I know. We are not allowed to experiment with our intuition. We're not allowed to experiment with our trust in ourselves, but we are told to go out and experiment with drugs. We're told to go out and experiment with people, like different sexual partners from a young age, before you even know yourself. You're taught to try different foods and things like this, but like the parts that really make us human and the parts that are so important, we are not allowed to experiment with. We're not allowed to experiment with energy. We're not allowed to experiment with our gut instinct and what the different energies are and what you're feeling inside. You're not allowed to. It's just so much shame around it.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. And now you're being bombarded with all of this possible scenarios of all these different things. And it's like, you don't even know where to move because you've never said, what does it feel like? How do I feel? What feels safe? What feels good? What feels bad? Because so many of us were like manipulated as kids. Like, you're not really feeling that. This hurts me way more than it hurts you.
That's bullshit. I called bullshit on it then. I remember being little and be like, that's bullshit.
That is some manipulation of deflecting how someone's feeling because of you.
And my ex-husband, he would say the same thing. Typical narcissist. This is your fault, Terry Ann. If you just did what I told you to do, we wouldn't have a problem.
Yeah. And how many of us heard that from authority figures? And then you grow up, dating that because you're like, this is what safety is. This is what love is.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe that control was love when I was young, because that's what that's what I knew. Let's talk a little bit about, you make a great point. Let's talk a little bit about this intuition that we have within ourselves. We get the gut feelings, we get a knowing. A lot of people don't understand the knowing is also your intuition, right?
Yes.
We're cognizant, we know something, we don't know why we know something, but we meet somebody, maybe we just don't know. There's something about them, I'm just unsure, I just don't like them.
Yeah. Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to tell you, you're trusting your gut, your instincts. There's nothing wrong with that. It may not be that they're a bad person. It doesn't have to mean anything other than you don't align with their energies. When I talk about, my friend sent me this great thing the other day about the way people speak, and it was religion, spirituality, and energy. And a lot of times I talk in energy. So I think sometimes the message gets skewed in there. But if I'm not on the same frequency as you, we can't meet. There's not a lot of people.
You're not going to understand anyway. You're not
going to understand what I'm saying. And, there's not a lot of people that I meet that I gravitate towards. And when we met back in 21, right, I was like, oh my God. It was like everything, the energies were so aligned, and I felt your energy and I knew it. And everybody's like, you don't even like people. How do you go out and meet people? And I'm like, I don't try to go out and meet people. That's the point. I don't say, well, I'm going to go here and I'm going to meet people. I knew beforehand, I had guidance that I was going to meet a beautiful woman on the road and that we would connect and it would be a beautiful relationship, a soul relationship from past lives. I had that intuition, that guidance before. So I didn't put any parameters around what that would look like or where it would be or when it would happen. And then here you are, boom, in my life in Virginia. And I'm like, holy cow, like, how did this happen? But you just know, and I've explained this before, you don't know why you know, but you know.
Yep. And we both felt safe to be genuine. And I think that's what made resonance so strong too. because we both trusted intuition, and we were both coming out of that like shift of crazy, because our intuition was really pressed against the wall with COVID and everything. Just take out like reality and what we have to go through on a day-to-day basis. Like, we went through something globally, and to not be afraid to have a real conversation and to not be afraid to express, I think what was really magnetizing. And everyone that I have intentionally met, and when I say intentionally, like, because like you, I don't go out there like, oh, I'm going to meet this person, but I'm intentional of who I share my energy with. I'm very intentional now. And everyone that I intentionally meet and connect with, they're on a path, you know, a higher path. And it has nothing to do with competition. It has nothing to do with success. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with bettering yourself and then bettering the world around you as a result. And that's an energetic talk. You have to be able to conceptualize that. And I agree, like it was very important to me at that time. And so I know you were sent as an angel at that time too, as confirmation. But I also know that it's intuition. It really is. It is allowing yourself to feel when everything tells you not to feel anymore. Everything tells you to close off. Because part of you leaving was closing off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, let's talk about this, because I'm being drawn this way. So let's go with it with alignment when we're talking about alignment. But let's talk about, there's so much going on around us that we're so distracted, and we can't ever see like 2 inches in front of us because we're so disconnected with ourselves. If I'm disconnected from myself, how can I expect to connect with others? And we are about making the world a better place. And how do we make the world a better place? We start with ourselves. And the better version of myself, like long ago, I was told I was a transmitter, a beacon. If I'm a better version of myself, wherever I go, I'm bringing the better version of that energy into that space, right?
Exactly.
So, you know, sometimes when I go places, there's nobody there. All of a sudden I'm there and tons of people around. Now, I don't like that because I like my space, and I don't like when there's a lot around me. So, but my energy will come forward and people will gravitate towards that energy. So it's not necessarily me they're gravitating towards, it's the representation of that energetic frequency that I have that will bring. That doesn't mean that I should connect with every person that comes into my energy, because I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to. Let's talk about that in alignment, because a lot of times I think when you're on the spiritual path and you are a woman, you are embracing this new experience that you're having. But that doesn't mean that you should not protect yourself, or it doesn't mean because you're a light that you will have no dark. I think the spiritual community has done a poor job in facilitating the message of what that means.
Yeah, and I think it's been hijacked a lot too, because we want you to be free, but not too free that we can't manipulate you. And that that is a problem, you know. But I agree. I think generation after generation, life after life, there has been this suppression that has happened. And partly because of society, but partly because things are unsafe. And we learn to dim ourselves, or we learn to pull the cloak over the light in order not to attract the moths, you know, because we want butterflies. And I think that from a young age, myself personally, my healing energy, my open energy, the way that people gravitated around me and felt good around me, it got shamed so many times because of jealousy, or because maybe someone in my life feared what that attention would bring, or because that energy brought negative attention at some points, because it doesn't just bring equal energy. It also brings perverted energy. It also brings dark energy. You know, for every light, there is matching dark. And if you are not, like you said, in tuned with that intuition and paying attention and learning how to connect and not just being open. Because I remember the first time you told me, you're like, Keegan, you are way too open in the heart space, girl. Like, we got to pull that in, as protection. Like, you can't just be free like this all the time. You have Olivia, and you're teaching her, like, you don't have to talk to every stranger just because they say something nice to you. You don't have to communicate with people. You don't have to be nice to keep the peace. It invites other things. Mm-hmm. And as women, that intuition is turned against us every time. Be the good girl. Be the quiet girl. Don't be loud. Don't be too aggressive. Be pretty. Don't be too pretty, though. Like, it's just all of this constant confliction of what we are, and we're trying to walk down the middle of it. And it's dangerous as a woman. And I think now, more importantly, now than ever, because of social media and because of the freedom and stuff, we really need to teach ourselves and the generations coming that intuition is everything. It is you. Like, that is what makes you woman, is to be able to feel and move and receive and create.
And for the men watching too today, if there's men out there that are watching this channel, because my channel did just shift into midlife revision, but if you're watching or listening, part of that for you means that having a woman live in her femininity is one of the most beautiful, safest places for you to be, because not only are you providing a service to your spouse or your partner, right? You're there, you're going to give her the safe space to be. And I found this in my own relationship with my husband. It's been an amazing journey to watch how we've discovered one another, but also discovered ourselves in that process. Now, he is to provide the safe space for me to be who I am as a feminine being. And what does that mean? Sometimes I'm crazy. Sometimes I'm loud. Sometimes I'm shitty, but it's all part of who I am as a woman. And when you're told your whole life to be a certain way to attract a certain type of man, you don't attract the man that you need, the man that you'll have that intimate soulmate connection with, because you're attracting the ones that are broken. Who did that? I know. Here I am.
Or you're attracting the ones that are so in their masculinity, they don't have that feminine nature within themselves. And when I'm talking about intuition being feminine, it's not just what makes us physically women. It is the feminine energy. And men have to have that intuition too. They have to be able to walk into a room and tell right away, oh, my wife's shitty today. How can I create an environment to bring this down? How can I create an environment where she feels safe? You know what I mean? How when you walk into a house, men can feel the shift of their wife. They can feel their partner. And if you're not comfortable with your intuition and you're not comfortable with feeling, you're going to turn around and walk the fuck out. You're not even going to want to deal with it, or you're going to pick a fight because you want to match the energy instead of create that safe space. Like,
so think
Justin
about that.
does this with Olivia, and I love this. And he does it with me as well, because it's just the thing now. But when Olivia, she's 10, and you know how the layers start to create with fear because they're being exposed to different things, different kinds of movies, different kind of imagery, different things at school. And she's starting to get afraid of certain things, like, well, what if someone breaks into the house? And what if this happens? Things that she never thought of before. Mm-hmm. And Justin doesn't try to rationalize with her and say, you don't need to fear this, blah, 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 blah. He just always grabs her, he hugs her, and he says, honey, you are safe and you are loved.
Oh, I love that.
Poof, fear is gone. And it's like, if he wanted to match her energy of like, don't be afraid, that's ridiculous, you don't need to be afraid of this, I'm a man and I'm going to protect you, that doesn't make a woman feel safe. But the gentle pause of, hey, you are loved and you are safe.
I love that. It's true because men, I think,
now when I start getting angry and crazy, he just hugs me and he'll be like, babe, you are loved and you are safe. And we laugh. But it's so needed because when I get out of balance, it's usually because I don't feel safe somewhere. Yeah. And it's the truth.
You know, when we talk about feminine and masculine, right? We both have both energies. So we need, men are very logical, analytical. They want to fix things, right? They like working with their hand. They want to fix it for you. You don't always necessarily need it fixed. You do need sometimes a hug, you know. My husband will say, let me give you a hug. I'll be like, no.
Yeah, don't me.
But he has to gauge, right? He has to learn how to gauge what that is for me, because if I've gone now, and there's lots of layers to that too. If I've gone to a place, and we all go to these places sometimes, me included, a not so nice, a darker place. Yeah. We do all go there. We don't have to live there, but sometimes we do go there. And if I'm in that not so nice place, there is nothing that you're going to do to help me. I've got to help myself in that situation. And I think what I've found from my process, and if you're out there, ladies, let me know, you need that time to process, because if you're in that darker space, somebody outside of you isn't going to help you.
No.
You've got to help yourself in those situations. And I think for me, I had to grow through what that meant. Right now, I love hugs and I think it's great, but most times I don't go to that darker place. But if I'm in that darker place, man, you better look out.
But it's cyclic too. Like, people discredit it. So like sometimes we get stuck in this dark place. And it could stem from childhood. It could stem from relationship abuse. It could stem from narcissism. It could stem from a million different things. But it's always cyclic in nature. And when you mirror that to like the darkness within us, we have a womb that sheds, you know, and during the shed, we physically don't want to receive anything. We are flushing. We're pushing it all out. So that's how I view those dark moments and those feelings and those emotions, because our body is keeping score. It's not just cyclic in our menstruation, but it's cyclic mentally. It's cyclic in energy too. Sometimes you need that space to clear yourself and realign and recenter. And somebody else's energy is not going to do that for you. It's actually going to hinder that.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because you mentioned the body keeps score, and I've just been reading this book for the first time, and it's pretty in-depth and pretty deep. I have to take like little chunks of it. But the body will give you a yes or a no. The body is going to tell you, yes, I should do this. No, I should not do this. And you can use it for anything and everything. I muscle test with my body now. I learned that years ago. Muscle testing with your body. You face true north. And you ask your body, show me what a yes looks like, show me what a no looks like. So it physically shows you, it'll move forward or backwards. No movement means I don't know, you know, so intuitively you can go with that. Otherwise, you can tune in to what you're feeling.
Yeah.
You have to honor, we've got to come to a place in this world today, women and men, where we honor what we're feeling at that moment without the shame and guilt behind it that holds all of those things that we've been taught for so long. And when we start to learn to use our body as an intuitive guide, our whole world changes around us, because you're saying, hey, should I go eat that piece of pie? No, hell no. Because you know how it's going to make you feel after. Not that the pie's bad, because I could eat pie other times and it'll be fine. But maybe today my body says, hey, I don't need that pie today. But your body also has that ability.
And I think I love that bit of advice, because everyone should have an attunement of some kind with themselves to check in. But once you really get so good at the yeses and the nos, then you can then be a better person for other people and show up energetically for other people, because sometimes what we're feeling is not even our own. It is what the other person is pushing off and doesn't want to feel. So sometimes when we get around people and, if it's, like if this is supposed to feel good and I go into a situation and I'm like having all of these weird thoughts of doubt and fear and anxiety, and I'm not really meshing with that person. It might not even be me. It might be what that person is actually feeling. And then if you can decipher what is you and what is that person, then you can show up differently for them too. And your interaction can be different. If you can feel that immediately because you're so in tune with yourself, you can help differently. You can aid differently. You can back away. You know where to put the pressure and not,
So how many times have you done something you didn't want to do and you got the outcome that you didn't want? If you're out there, share with us, because that happens often, that we are just taught to do it no matter what it is. And you don't want to disappoint somebody, or your energy is low that day and you really don't want to go, but you go anyway. And like you said, and it's not always you, it is sometimes the projection of those the people with their energy. But also if it is you and you get this nudge sort of not to go and you go anyway, often what is happening is misalignment.
You're going to have a bad time.
I think misalignment and alignment, right? We talk a lot about alignment, but let's talk a little bit about misalignment, because we've all lived in misalignment. I don't want you to think that we go through life and everything's fully aligned and this is great, but we are moving into embodiment. And what embodiment means is more alignment. So let's go back and talk a little bit about misalignment. And when we go through a space of misaligned energies and we take jobs we don't want because we need money, or we, go to the school we didn't want to go to because our parents wanted us to go to that school. No matter what it is, we've all been through these and we've followed misaligned energies through our life. But let's talk a little bit about what happens when we not only follow that misalignment, but then we live it. And we sort of learn to
deal with it.
Deal with it, or be with it, or think that's who we truly are, when really, it's not an easy process. We talk about these things and there's so many podcasts out there that talk about this process of spirituality and awakening. And as women with the midlife envisioned within that, it's a whole nother ball game. But when we look at misalignment, we're looking back at those things, but again, not looking at them to live in that regret of doing them. Yes, I thought controlling was love back then, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I believed back then. I thought that he loved me because he controlled me. And then when I knew better, I could live in a new space where my love would be accepted for who it was, no sort of control. And so I think the misalignment, we're missing a lot, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the battle. I think it's the battle between the mind and the heart. You know what I mean? Like, or our ego versus spirit. Because you said something, you said, I thought that is what love was. You didn't say, I feel like that's what love was. You said, I thought. And I think that is the biggest thing that people and myself had to really come to terms with. I can't think my way through anything. I can think my way into staying. I can think my way into dealing. I can think my way out of thinking. But it still feels like something. Doesn't matter how much I talk myself out of it. My body feels that wasn't good. And I should have listened, but I listened here instead of here. Because most situations that are bad situations, or most relationships, something inside of you said, this does not feel good. But you thought yourself out of it.
Well, because that's what you thought at the time. And, since I've done so much heart work and I've worked with so many people with heart energies, I learned the heart itself has so many nerves. Why is that not something that we're taught? Why is it not something that when we're little, we're not taught that your heart has this energy and all these nerves like we have in the mind? We're taught to believe our mind, but we're not taught to believe our heart. And so here's the card I pulled for that: quieting the mind.
Can't lie
You can't
about
make this shit up.
No, you can't. So I said you can't lie about it. But once I learned to say, Keegan, shut up, it changed, you know? And sometimes shutting up and being quiet gives you all the answers because the world doesn't like quiet. When you sit quiet in the woods, nature starts happening around you. Everything gets real loud and crazy. It's when you're making all the noise that the woods is quiet. And it's the same kind of thing with people in society. When you get quiet, you really see what's going on around you. And you can feel and you can move differently. And it sucks.
Move differently.
It sucks, but it's the truth. And the truth doesn't always feel good. Sometimes the truth has to hurt, so you change.
Otherwise, you wouldn't change. You know,
right.
From my experience, what I've seen and with myself, you're not going to, you know, when things are really good, right? And things are going and everything's flowing. And I've had clients say this to me, well, things were going really good. I don't know what happened because it's still misaligned. Just because things are going good and you're in this job and maybe you like it, it's okay, but you're not fulfilling that piece in your heart that calls to you and says, get the fuck out there and do what you're meant to do. Then yeah, it may feel okay at the time, but it's still misaligned. And when you sit with yourself and you look at that and you say, yeah, what's the fears and doubts I have around that? Leaving that job or changing positions. I mean, some of the things we've done have been crazy. It's like I've just been guided to go on the road. Or I was guided to move to Sedona. And my husband's like, what the hell? Like, but we did it, you know? And that's not to say you have to do everything you're guided to do because you don't. You have a choice in this world. But I'm just using those as an examples. There are going to be things that you want to do, things that you do, but it's your fucking journey. So it's up to you to fucking decide if you want to do it or not. We're not here to tell you have to do it. Hey, I get this message.
If it's fear stopping you, you really need to sit with it and say, is this a rational fear or am I safe and am I loved?
Are you creating from that fear? Do you know how many of us create from fear? Well, I can't do this because. Instead of saying, well, if I do this, what? What is that? You know, I sort of get, and maybe that's because that's who I am. And I'm this free spirit. People like to call me a gypsy, this free spirit, which I always thought was a bad thing because I was sort of like out there and I would just go do things and, you know, but I lost that in myself. And now as I'm midlife, I'm jumping the fuck back in. I'm like, I'm all in, baby. I am free spirit and I'm loving who I am at this moment. I think midlife revision for me is so much about that with women.
Yeah. And like, I agree with you 100%. And I was called a dirty gypsy as a derogatory thing. I'm like, yeah, bitch, dirty, bare feet in the woods.
Well, you're from dirty Jersey. You got to be dirty gypsy.
Dirty Jersey. That's right. But no, I agree 100%. And you know, we got so used to like this cookie cutter thing as a way to stay safe that we don't dream anymore. And like part of being a free spirit is being able to dream and being able to see something and not see it at all, just trust. And we got so comfortable in not changing. And I always like bring it back to the butterflies. You know, if it stays a caterpillar the whole time, you never get the butterfly.
Yeah.
You don't. And if you stay if you stay the same, I promise there's going to come a time in your life where you're like, what the F am I doing? This all sucks. I hate it all. And that's what we call a midlife crisis these days.
Yes.
And it's because we stopped dreaming. We stopped using our imagination. We stopped wondering. And it's like, what do you work for then? Why do you go to the 9-to-5 job? Is it really just to pay bill after bill?
And go on vacation once a
year.
Is
it really just to make a $900 car payment? What is your dreams? Like, I've been speaking a lot too to women that are recently retired, and so many of them have the same theme that they're like, I don't know anything. I don't know who I am, what I want to be. I don't even know where to start dreaming of like what I want to do next.
Yeah. And I remember being there. I remember being there when my older kids were graduating high school, and I put so much identity in being their mother, being a wife. And I love that role, but now they were old enough, and little did I know I would get pregnant again at 40, but that's another story. I identified with that so much that I lost who I was. And when it came time for me to look at that, it's like, well, who am I really? Yeah, I am those things, but that's not who am I really. You know, and who was I? Because I was only told who I was supposed to be. I didn't even know that at that time. And so when we go through midlife, we're like, what is it? I don't know. And how do you learn to find that? You know, for me and the people that I work with. And I think part of what you and I are doing here today is creating that space for the women to come in and go, look, these two women know what the hell they're talking about. They're like on this journey themselves. And I think it's a safe space for people to share that we don't always know what the friggin' path is, but we know we're getting on the path, and we know we're going to go deep inside. And I think that's the biggest message we're bringing through today.
To be a cheerleader, to take the risk. I don't know what your life looks like or your path looks like, but I promise you, taking a risk and choosing what feels good against the grain is going to work out every freaking time. I've never heard anybody say, I took this chance and I regret it.
Never.
Never.
Because something great always comes out of it, right? I mean, maybe you weren't meant to stay there. And I think this was the biggest part of an issue that I had, is because, and let me know if you identify with this out there, because I was always called, you know, flighty. I'd start something and not finish it, or I'd do so. Oh, I want to be this and I want to be that. And so I changed careers and I'd change degrees and, you know, all these things. And then I became a Reiki master, and I'm like, I'm moving, I'm leaving, I'm going around the country. But, you know, I think if you don't know who you are and you're looking, that's great. I mean, I think it's great that I was looking and I weeded it out. It's like, all right, I worked in corporate. Well, this certainly is not for me, so let me get the hell out of here. You know, I think that that's great that you can do that. We have to have the ability to do that. That and daydream, I think, is two things that as children we were indoctrinated to believe were wrong.
Yep. I think travel, trying, and imagination are the most important things that we can ever have. Because I don't even think it's our word anymore, because I can change what I think and say next week based on a new experience in my life. But travel, you need to get out of the place you are. You do. You need to. You have to go somewhere else and see how the world receives you, and see how you show up in the world, and see how it feels to be someplace you've never been before. Because that is part of that feeling. And if you can't be comfortable with getting out of your skin and getting out of your everyday and putting yourself in a situation of safety, travel is safe. You know, I'm not saying go do some drugs and see how that feels. I'm saying, you know, but if
you want to, you could do that too.
Yes, just don't think it's going to end out well from the statistics. You know, you're going to numb, but you're not going to find the source.
Right. You're just numbing. And I think we've done that for so long. That ship has sailed. People don't want to do that anymore. I think the biggest thing I found with awakening, midlife, spirituality, is people don't want to do what they've always done anymore. They want to experience a new way of being.
Yeah.
And that requires you to sometimes step out of your comfort zone. And is it scary? Hell yeah, it's fucking scary. You know, is it going to work out? It may not, but you took the chance doing it and you enjoyed it, or you met great people, or you loved what you were doing and it was time to move on. I mean, when I left Sedona, I was devastated. I never wanted to leave Sedona, but Sedona has that ability to bring you in, to heal what needs to be healed, and then kick you back out. sorry for anybody that still lives there and is working on their shit while they're going through it. There are people probably there that are lifers, but most times you're going to go somewhere. You're going to be called, whether it's the ocean, right? Whether it's Portugal, Hawaii, the mountains, wherever it is that you're called to, you go. And maybe you spend a few years, and then maybe it's time to move the fuck on again, because you've created, or you've done, or you've been where you needed to be, but now it's time to go. And I think as a society, I know that's a big one, because my parents, stayed in the same job for 30 years, stayed in the same house for 30 years. They lived, they traveled and did shit like that, but they didn't experience a life per se where they were able to now shift and move, because they had those thoughts and beliefs about the way things were supposed to be. Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy is then we're taught by definition that doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results is literally insanity. Yet we're told to do that on a day-to-day basis. And back to like how you were saying about how people called you flighty and all of these things, I have realized in 40 years that is just a projection of how terrifying your freedom is to someone else. Yes. How terrifying your belief in something higher is to someone else. How terrifying your confidence is to someone else. And you have to respect that. And you have to honor yourself and say internal power, because that's what it is. You're not doing it to point to anyone. You're doing it because it's what you feel you need to do. It's what your life is being called to do. And that is that internal power. I don't travel because someone told me I can't. I travel because I like it. I didn't get up and move to another country because someone told me I couldn't. I did it because I chose to. Yeah. Even in the military, people will say, oh, you have your life because your husband was in the military. Nah, we chose every point. We chose every duty station. We chose every job. We chose every situation, every circumstance. We chose. And we chose to embrace the parts of the military that could give us what we wanted in our life.
Exactly. And so, again, goes back to those other people and saying what they're saying. I want to talk a little bit, because we're getting a little bit into that now, but alignment in relationships. And so when we are aligned with ourselves, right, we're talking a lot about who we used to be, where we are now, and where we're going. But as we stay within this softness of ourselves, right, we're not abandoning ourselves anymore. But what does that look like in a relationship? Because you and I have talked about this, and we have husbands and we have children. And sometimes we can't just pick up and go. Like, we have a whole family. And I think that was one of the things I was like, well, yeah, we're going to go do this, but everybody has to be involved. So I think sometimes there is life things that sort of create that within you. But when you live in that softness or that alignment of it, right? What are we really talking about?
We're talking about the fluidity, and softness is not control. So when we talk about having a husband and we talk about having a daughter, it is being open to how they feel as well. It is not controlling the narrative and pushing an agenda. That's very masculine. It is saying, like, this is not working. And if it's not working for me, it cannot be working for your authentic self. And it cannot be working for your authentic self. And it's having the okay that if you're not living in the flow of what is open-hearted, and that is hitting a wall against someone else, then that energy just doesn't align in truth. It doesn't mean you hate that person. It doesn't mean they're a shitty person. It just means that your truth and my truth are not in alignment. And showing up authentically means I don't push you into that. I release you of it.
Yes.
And when we do that for each other, it allows space for growth. And it allows for that person to find out really what is their flow, or what they're wanting, or what they're trying to align with. And it allows the other person. And when you do it as a family, then you can align together.
Mm-hmm.
So we do that sometimes. We do a check-in. Like, how's it going? Like, is how this schedule working? Is it working for you? Because it's actually not working for me. I'm picking up a lot of slack. I'm feeling like I'm changing. I'm feeling like I'm getting lost in it. What are you feeling? And then a lot of times it's, oh my God, I thought that you were just okay carrying it. I've been not liking you working so much. I've been not liking you feeling like this, but I thought, you were good with it. Thank you for telling me. And then you can shift and navigate, you know what I mean? Or Olivia being open and being like, I actually need more of this. Because right now in my life, I am feeling like this. And when you open and you have that flow state and you have that femininity, that openness to the softness, then it's not about manipulating it. It's about asking so you can receive. It's about asking so you can change and move with the flow.
Yeah, and create other circumstances, because we all have the power to create, right? And maybe it's not working today, or it's not the way you want it to be. But when you go within and you look at that and you imagine and you create and you build and you're curious, all these things that we were taught not to do, that is the creation, right? We are going to create that. So then movement happens, and movement happens often when it's a family. The movement is going to happen as a family. And so we're going to move together through that space. And they may not know. I always say this about my husband. My husband is very intuitive, but he doesn't always know. Or he likes to play he doesn't know. But, he is very intuitive. So when he says something, I always pay attention, because I'm like, he knows something, or he feels something, or he doesn't always know why that is, and so I'm like, okay, I pay attention, because now I'm like, okay, something's going on. He wants to change and shift something here.
Yeah.
But he's not always exactly aware of what that looks like. And because he's logical and analytical, he gets caught up in those, what's the word I'm looking for? Like directions of it, right? He has to have, a plan.
To know the steps of it and what's going to happen.
He has to have his plan. And I pull him out of that plan.
Yeah, because that's what we're kind of saying, you get really overwhelmed when you ask somebody what the problem is, or if you ask someone what will work for you. That is way different than asking someone what is not working or what does not feel good. What is a hard no? People can pick a hard no way faster than they can, think of what they want. They way faster than they can dream about what it's going to be. So like you saying that you are intuitively picking up on a shift of, it's because he's saying no. Inside something is saying, okay, this isn't working or this needs to change, or a change is coming. And it's knowing that about everybody, because everybody can pick hard no's before they pick hard yeses. So if you are staying true to what is a hard no, then you are just going to be moving into alignment before you even realize you are going to be in alignment.
Yes. And so think about that.
Are supporting that. Like, that is what the fire horse is asking you to do. That is what Saturn being in retrograde and Mercury being in retrograde and Pluto moving into something or other. But it's asking you, like, what is your hard no? What is your hard no? And just really be definite in, like, this is not working. This is a hard no. This is a line no. And the universe wants to move around that. It wants to shift around that. And so does your world.
So I think if we could give people something today, it would be to really sit with yourself and see, what is your hard no? What is it that you definitely can't negotiate on? What is it that you want? And sit and dream and create and visualize. And maybe it's not today that it's going to happen. But maybe that creation, right, is coming, or you're feeling it intuitively. And I always feel
you don't have to know right now. You don't have to know right now, but you have to know what you don't want right now. Like, let me ask you, I bet you remember the first time that you really said no to your ex-husband. Like, no, nope. And you stood in it. Nope, not doing it, not happening, or whatever it was. No, just no. Or the first time your child stands in defiance, no. And how you move around that. Did you meet it with control and you're going to manipulate it and change it and you're not going to say no to me? Or did you take a deep breath and say, whoa, this is different. Yeah. Where is this coming from? Why are these emotions so strong that I'm getting this hard no? And we navigate completely different when we do that.
Yes. And it was different based on who I was then with my older children, based on who I am now. But although I have to say a caveat, having a daughter who is very strong-willed, Scorpio, a lot of water in her chart, compared to me, is fire, a lot of fire in my chart and air. So, you know, having that, she can sometimes, especially now she's 16, all right, she can pull me into that space. And it really depends on me, right? What do you mean no? Oh, hell no. Well, hell no on my side too. This is I always say, I'm healing, I'm not healed. I'm still hood, even though I'm
exactly
right?
But you can see the healing in that. You can, yes. Where depending where you are.
And you can see
where it challenges you. Like how you said how you treated the boys if they told you no is totally different than 40-plus-year-old Terry Ann, who is lived a little bit different, you know, raising Sophia. I'm sure the boys, when they challenged the no, it was like, I'm not even allowed to say no. You're not going to fucking say no.
It was like automatic backhand. Like exactly.
I'm not going to say no.
I had this thing then. It was automatic. My hand just hit. It was like that. There was no thought behind it, no feeling. It was just that. And my boys will tell you that. They're like, you're so different with her than you were with her. Yeah, hell yeah, I am, because I was, 20 years older when I had her versus 20 having you. It's like, how do you sit in that space? But because that was automatic, that's what I grew up with. Yeah. That's what I knew.
And it was your system being in fight or flight, because we discredit what happens to a woman when they become a mother. Immediately we are put into this fight or flight. And then if you're doing the work over time, you see everything start to come to the surface, all the patterns, all the cycles, and the things that, were you, aren't you, all of these things are happening. But the younger we are, and without space to have a mirror, without a tribe, without a village, you are bubbled in whatever you're living. You really are.
Yes.
You need it. You need it for the reflection.
Let's talk a little bit about some practical steps for alignment. I think alignment, what daily practice is something that someone can do that's just starting to cultivate alignment. For me, it's always like a morning check-in, mind, body, soul, because I travel a lot during the night. I'm everywhere. I like to check in mind, body, soul. What do I need this morning? And even if I didn't have time, like especially when she was younger, and I was driving her all over the place to school and everything, but now I have more time. Even if I had no time, I would just sort of put my hands on my heart and ask, body, mind, and soul, what do you need today? And somewhere throughout my crazy day, I would try to honor what those things were that I heard or felt or knew within me. And I think that helps bring you into a more coherent alignment with whatever it is that you need that day. What about you?
Exactly. Yeah, and definitely carving out intentional time for that, and not giving the excuse that I don't have time, because like you said, driving, if I'm driving Olivia 10 minutes to school, then I have 10 minutes on the way home or wherever I'm going next to sit with myself and turn the music off in my car and check in. I had, instead of going on my phone, and scrolling, I can give myself that 15, 20 minutes to sit and decompress. If you live in a place that you can walk outside and put your bare feet on the ground, do it. It is the quickest way for you to check in and come back to that present moment. especially when there's snow on the ground. That'll wake you right up. But being very intentional and saying that you deserve it, because so many of us don't feel like we deserve the time. We feel like you have to do this whole checklist before you have time to relax, or you have to do this whole checklist before you have time to check in. And we really have to start training ourselves that you're worthy. You're worthy of love. You're worthy of time. You're worthy of commitment. You're worthy of caring for yourself, not just others, and mothering yourself or fathering yourself, and really be intentional with it. If you only have 10 minutes, be the most intentional you can be in those 10 minutes. And 10 minutes every day is going to change you drastically. And 10 minutes turns into 20 minutes, and 20 minutes turns into an hour, because you get addicted to checking in and moving from that space, instead of this space of, winter's coming and we have to collect all the nuts and we got to go, 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 go. You can't create from that. That is so spastic.
Yeah.
And just creates more chaos.
I think it's true. Often we run and run, run. And I remember many days that was life, especially when I had 3 boys under 3. That was what life was. As I've gotten older, I've learned more to sit. Thoughts rush in. All these things happen and you're like, am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Your face isn't moving. You're still frozen, but I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened. We were having internet issues yesterday, but not today. And nobody's home but me. So stop messing around.
And, you brought up a good point. You said when you had 3 under 3, you were like constantly going, constantly moving. And that goes back to the idea too, that like every free moment you have, you conditioned yourself, or somewhere along the lines, you were conditioned to believe that any free moment you had to be bettering them, had to be bettering the house, had to be, doing in the space around you. It had nothing to do with you. And I think that's what we really need to get back to as a society and as people. We really need to be intentional with the time we give ourselves, or eventually we will become selfish and we will just take and be afraid of what is being taken, because we're not giving ourselves the permission to care for ourselves. We're not. And I think it leads to a lot of terrible things in society. Because
had I known then what I know now, like I'd be playing with them in the dirt. I would have taken them out on more adventures, and we did do a lot like that. It was, I always have to say, as chaotic as it was a fun time, and I wouldn't have changed it for anything in the world. But you're right. You're always in that space of doing or bettering, and obviously now that I'm older and I can look back and I can see that. But if you're in it and you have young kids, yeah, it is difficult. But, just know that you're doing.
And I think finding the sacredness in the mundane as well. Like there is something sacred about folding laundry to me. There's something sacred about being able to make a clean bed for my family to get in and rest their heads. There's something sacred in making dinner. There's something sacred in the things that we cannot escape, because they are part of survival. They're a part of everyday life. And the more space we give ourselves for sacredness, it will calm our nervous system. It will give us that retreat. It will open us to have a more of imagination, to have more of a love for things instead of a need and a want. We need to develop sacredness in the daily practice, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's the embodiment, the alignment. It's all of that. Moving forward.
You there?
Yeah. Am I back?
Yep. Moving forward, you were saying?
Moving forward, you're going to see this in more of an embodiment. It's not a force, it's just a flow. And, you know, I'm losing it again. There it is. Well, maybe that is the thing to cut it short today.
Maybe the universe is like, you've done talking. Or maybe we're getting to something even better.
All right, so let's tune in and see Keegan. Because we talk about it, but let's practice it. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're done. I think it's time to go create sacred in this time we're being given.
Say, you know, thank you for joining Keegan and I today. Keegan, thank you so much for coming on. I love having you here and sharing our monthly Third Thursday connections that we create this beautiful space for others to join us. And I thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your beauty and your light and your wisdom.
Thank you.
And I just want to let you know, if this conversation supported you today, to just like and follow and share. And just remember, you're not late, you are aligning, and we're all on this journey. You know, even though we're on our own, we are all on this journey together. And I'm just so grateful to be able to be here and share my wisdom with the world. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank our viewers and our listeners. And a shout out to Greece, who's one of my top listeners today. So
yes, I love that. And every moment that you are breathing is a moment to change. So remember that.
love that.